All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Monday, December 22nd of 2025. Looking ahead here, we had college football and soccer action get underway already today. Good luck to you playing those slates. We have NBA, NHL, and NFL still on the way later this evening. So it should be a fun day of DFS. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all TFS related questions. Get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and to get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days to get your questions answered. All right. With that said, let's get SaberSim pulled up on the screen. Apologize if I sound a little monotone, feeling a little under the weather today. Seasons are definitely getting to me a little bit here, but nevertheless, we push forward and keep the show rolling. So for today, why don't I pull up the, you know what? This question is actually going to take us to the perfect spot. First question of the day is best ways to account for duplication FanDuel single game slates. So why don't we go over to the FanDuel single game slate for today, between the Niners and the Colts today, and see what we can do. So first things first, right, is that you need to be aware that on FanDuel, we just show total ownership at the moment. So there's MVP, you flex, you go back and forth. It's the same value. This is a technical problem with the data that FanDuel provides to us. This is something that our team is aware of, and we know users want to see like separate ownership for MVP and flex. That is something that we are working on, and I think that is something that a lot of users are going to be excited about once we get finished. In the meantime, though, right, we have to work with what we have and kind of figure out ways to work around this problem, right? So I usually talk about, coming at duplication. There's like kind of four main angles I think of: some ownership, product ownership, leaving salary on the table, and then lineup construction. Those are like kind of the main things that I can, that I've used and found valuable in terms of avoiding duplication overall. So with only having total ownership, that basically takes two of those things away, right? Some and no, we can't use some. Some in product, those kind of go out the window. So what does that leave us with, right? That leaves us with leaving salary on the table, and then that leaves us with lineup construction. So how can you work those things into your single game slates? Well, the salary one is the easiest, right? Like let's say we're just going to, instead of playing max salary lineups, maybe we're only willing to play up to 59.5, right? We're going to automatically leave 500 salary on the table in an event, in a effort here to try and get different from the rest of the field, right? That would be option number one. Option number two, and I think you can use these together, is the lineup construction method. So what I would probably do is I would just run like a base build, and I would do this on optimizer mode, and I would just run the build, let SaberSim do kind of whatever it wants here, right? We're going to see, hey, what are the top projected lineups? What are the most common kind of constructions that we're going to see here? And then how can we do something about that, right? So we're going to build 20 lineups. I'm going to create a group here. I'm just going to use Uniques 1 projected score. And I want to just really go into my player table and look at my exposures, right? So Most common captain showing up here is Jonathan Taylor. I'm just going to write this down. J. Taylor. Or MVP, I should say, for FanDuel. J. Taylor, MVP. Still getting to like a lot of McCaffrey in the flex. Using a lot of the kickers, probably for salary relief. Yeah. So I'm seeing kickers, both teams. I could note Purdy here. What was his MVP? Yeah, I mean, we're using 100%. Purdy, 100%. McCaffrey, 100% Taylor. All right, so I'm going to note Purdy too. So it seems like our lineups here, right, that we're kind of seeing are some combination of Taylor, McCaffrey, and Purdy. These are kind of your three like core building blocks. Then at least like one kicker, and we can actually look at the lineups to confirm this, right? At least one kicker, if not two, and then one kind of additional player, right? So here it's kind of like Taylor, McCaffrey, Purdy, two kickers, right? And then like kind of a punt, Kyle Juszczyk, okay? Purdy captain, McCaffrey, Taylor, both kickers, punt, Amir Abdullah, right? And then, we could probably just continue and see different combinations, right? Same 6 players as lineup 1, except McCaffrey captain. Same as number 1, but Farrell instead of Juszczyk, right? So, this seems like a very common theme, right? We're seeing this very consistently. Purdy, McCaffrey, Taylor, one kicker, 2 other players, right? Okay. We see a little bit of variance there, but we even see kicker captain pay up for Kittle and Mo Alley Cox, right? So I think this gives us like a pretty good baseline, right? Like, hey, these are the type of lineups that are going to come up the most often. And what we can do about that is a couple of different things, right? You could start with like a group rule. Maybe you go and you take all these guys. Say, hey, I want to take Taylor, McCaffrey, Purdy, Pinheiro, and group, right? I take those 5 players that we're seeing a lot of. And then I say use no more. Let me remove the question, move my face over. Use no more than 4, right? Maybe I'm going to say, hey, I'm willing to play these guys, but you got to take one away at a minimum. And then I'm letting the builder decide which one to take away. My guess would be that it's going to take away one of the kickers most often and replace them and kind of keep the 4 and then kind of work around those, right? Like keep these 3 players that it's doing like 100% of. But maybe it won't, right? Maybe it'll do something different. If you really wanted to be aggressive, because the kickers weren't in 100%, right? You could be more aggressive and you can say, hey, use no more than 3, hey, use some combination of 3 players. If it's going to play the 3 core guys, it can't play any kicker. Or if you want to play a kicker, then you have to sacrifice one of Taylor, McCaffrey, Purdy, right? That would be another angle to come in it. If you want to be super aggressive, you could take out the kickers and then you can say, hey, use no more than 2 of these 3 guys, That's another option, right? So it just kind of depends how aggressive you want to be with it. But I think on FanDuel, some combination of leaving salary on the table and figuring out, getting a feel for like the cash constructions, what they are and how you can avoid them are going to be some of the best options that you can do. And I think that, some type of group rule limiting which players are popping the most would be the best way of doing that. So that's where I would start. Let me know if there's any follow-ups, but I think that is a good question to get us started. All right. Next question. Hey, are you aware of a service that provides historic contest results for DraftKings slates? It looks like DraftKings is limiting us to past 30 days now. SaberSim does. I mean, I'm not sure if you're like aware of that, but you can go back to any slate in our database. You know, today's the 22nd. Okay. I'm going to go back to, you know, September 14th. And this is like, you know, 3-ish months ago. Okay, I'm going to go back to the NFL main slate, go to contests. And then I can click on any one of these and, you know, see who won, right? Hey, I want to know who won the $555 Millie Maker. Okay, I click on it. And it looks like Elusive Smoke won, right? I can sort by actual. And then I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, right? This is what that is. I don't know if this button will work, but we could try it. This is effectively, yeah, this works. So this is a button that is effectively a hyperlink to the actual contest. So here, right, this will take me directly to the contest, and I can view it on DK if I want to. So that's another way of viewing it. Unless I'm misunderstanding the question, but, you know, when you say historic contest results for DraftKings slates, I think this is probably your best option. So give that a shot. All right. Next question. Andrew, my lineups do well when I use old school SaberScores, the highest SaberScore lineup, higher upside than a portfolio lineup. Thanks. So these are just different sorting metrics kind of all together. So let's go back to today. Let's just go to like NBA real quick. All right, let's go to a build. And then let's just generate 500 lineups. All right. So let's build some lineups. We'll talk about SaberScores. Oh. Okay. So we ran this build, 500 lineups. So when you switch to Uniques 1, right, you have a couple options. You have SaberScore, old SaberScore, and all the other metrics, right? So as far as old SaberScore versus new SaberScore, there is a video that kind of breaks this down. If you go to our help docs, you go to SaberSim tutorials, how SaberScore works, right? This kind of breaks down what we've changed with the SaberScore calculation here. Just like a good resource for anybody interested or who's not like as familiar with this topic. Now, what you can do, right? I know you said is the highest SaberScore lineup higher upside than a portfolio lineup. So portfolio uses new SaberScore. Now, when it does that, it always uses the top SaberScore. And then from there, it can decide which ones are best to play. So same with ROI with Portfolio Plus. It's always going to use the top ranked lineup, right? That first one is the one that it starts with. And then it figures out which next best lineup complements that highest one, right? So whether in portfolio or in unique one SaberScore, you're always going to get the highest SaberScore lineup. Now, from there, the builder can give you different ones. But as far as old SaberScore goes, right, I think what you can do is if you right-click on the columns, go to this table menu. This is a 7-game slate, so this would be considered large slate, maybe 10 to 50K. You know, I can compare these side by side if I want to, right? Like, hey, what is the highest large slate SaberScore? And how are those large slate SaberScore lineups ranking in terms of new SaberScore, right? So here I'm sorting. My lineups, I'm technically looking at the top 20 new SaberScore lineups. You can sort your group without changing the lineups, okay? All I'm doing is I'm just changing the order of the lineups here. So what this is telling me is that, hey, your highest old SaberScore is the third ranked new SaberScore lineup. And then I can see that 103 at rank 3, right? So the rank is based on the rank buy. So that gives you the opportunity, hey, you know, what lineup is the highest projected? What lineup is the highest owned, right? The ranks change within the 20, but the 20 never change, right? Like my exposures would not move in this scenario. If I go to exposures, so like I have 95% Carlson, for instance, right? So right now, I'm sorted by SaberScore. Well, what if I change this to projected? Notice my exposures aren't changing because I'm just doing it within the table. So just like a little tangent there. But I think you can compare these if you like. You know, our back testing did show that new SaberScore grades out better long-term than old SaberScore did. That's why we created it. That's why we launched it. You know, we're trying to give our users better metrics to use. If you feel more comfortable with old SaberScore, you know, that's totally like a personal choice to continue using it or not. All I can do is just kind of report to you guys what our data scientists find and, you know, let you guys be like the ultimate decision makers in what you want your lineups to go by. So my thoughts there. Next question, thoughts on 20 lineups in a 150 max? Yeah, this is like totally okay. It is always fine to enter less than the maximum number of lineups in any contest. And the reason for that is that what you should be doing, right, is you put in your best lineup first. Then you put in your second best, which is a little bit worse than the one that came before it. You put in your third best, which is a little worse than the two that came before that one, right? It's your third best, your fourth best. So all you're doing when you're entering 20 lineups into 150 max, you're saying, hey, I'm going to play my 20 best lineups, and I am deciding not to play my 21st through 150th best lineups. And users win contests all the time, entering less than the maximum number of lineups. I've had I am, you know, a huge believer in that it is okay to have less than the maximum number of lineups in any contest, and you can absolutely still make money doing that. All right, next question. How can I save the one group per contest? I have to do it every time. So this one should be, it is one of our default templates. Now, all you need to do to get it to activate automatically on every slate that you play is start, right? I think I was doing a demo for somebody who wanted to use ROI Uniques one instead of the portfolio. If you start this, every even build or every slate going forward where you come and you upload an entry file, it will automatically use the one group per contest template for you. So if you like this one or if you like one of the other ones, whatever template you prefer, just start it and it will auto activate on any contest file upload. All right. Can you show the new late swap feature? I like the old way. If I don't change anything and just build, do I leave late swap in default and does it automatically go into SaberSim live ownership? Yeah. So I don't think the late swap is really that different. I think just like the interface is a little bit different, which we can talk about here. So with the late swap update, instead of having a lightning bolt, this is like the first thing. Instead of there being a lightning bolt, there's like the 2 arrow button for swapping. So that button that used to be the lightning bolt was only for quick swap. Now, quick swap and late swap come from the same place. That's why we changed the icon. So when you click the double arrow icon, you get this pop-up, right? This is what quick swap is. So like it shows quick swap automatically. That's just because quick swap is the fastest way to swap out players out of your lineups. So we default you to quick swap. Now, if you don't want a quick swap, right? You're like, hey, I came here to actually late swap. Okay. Then you just click on over to the full swap side, which will look like this. All right. So this is the full swap side. Now, it looks a little different, but it should also look a little familiar. You still have your min salary, your max salary, your pool. You have the build mode of sim versus optimizer. And then you have the settings and exposures, okay? If you're making exposure adjustments, if you are changing projections, filtering your player pool, setting rules, any of those things, you want to carry them from your pre-slate build to your new build. Then you would change that in this dropdown. You would switch it from default to whatever the last build you used was. For most people, that's going to be build 1, So if I wanted to carry over stuff I did in build 1 pre-slate, I would change this from default to build 1 by clicking this dropdown. If you're not changing anything, if you don't want to change anything, great. Just leave this on default. This also gives you the ability to say, hey, I want to swap these contests. I don't want to swap these other contests if you so choose. If you want to late swap everything, great. All you really need to do is just open this up, go over to full swap, click late swap. That's it. And then after that, you get into the swap, right? This is my swap build. Make sure you turn on a template if one isn't started, right? If it is started, it should auto create even in a swap build. And then you click build swaps. And after that, everything is the same. You go, you do your late swap, and then you run it and you upload it. So only thing that's really changed is that kind of initial interface. Everything else should be very, very similar. All right. There's a follow-up here. We'll start with the follow-up. What if they are RPS stored projections stay in default? Okay, so if you have switched on SaberSim from SaberSim projections to RPS projections, that would be using a custom set of projections. So you can either change your settings from default to build 1 and it will automatically use RPS, or you could leave it on default, quick late swap, and then once you get into your swap build here, because it'll just open up your swap build, then change the gear icon from SaberSim to RPS once again. So if you carry over the settings, it should automatically go to RPS when you get to this screen. If not, if you just use default, just make sure to change the gear from SaberSim to RPS, and you should be all set. All right, next question. How do you make a rule max 3 per team in NBA? Yeah, no problem. So you go over to the rules. You go to add new rule. You go to group auto, use no more than 3, and you group by team. And then that's it. It will create a rule for each team saying use no more than 3 for any single team. All right, next question. For NFL Showdown Slates, is there any prep that you recommend we do earlier in the day, or should we just wait until closer to lock to start our process? Good question. The only thing I can think of that I think could be valuable to do earlier in the day is if you played Showdown yesterday, like if you played the Sunday Night Football Showdown, for instance, and it's Monday Night Football today, go and review your lineups from yesterday before you dive into today's slate, right? The slate dynamics and the slate context and maybe like questionables and injury reports and kind of all the situations that were unique to that one slate will still be fresh in your head, and you won't start to kind of cross wires with the information from today's slate, right? So I think that's a really good thing to do earlier in the day is review yesterday's results, because it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, did I build good lineups yesterday, or do I need to make some adjustments the next time I play? And given today is the next time you're going to play, you want to have that information ready so you can apply it, right? It is better to look at that today before the next slate. That way you don't have to wait. You know what I mean? Like if you did like, hey, I'm going to play Sunday, I'm going to play Monday, I'm going to review Tuesday, and then I'm going to use those adjustments for Thursday. Like, yeah, that's kind of okay. But if you played Sunday and then you're going to play Monday, if you have the time, hey, do some review Monday morning. And why wait until Thursday when you can make those adjustments right away, apply them to your process on Monday? And whatever those adjustments are going to be, dependent on, hey, did you grade out well in flashback? If you did grade out well, cool. Do the same thing today. Hey, I looked at flashback. Maybe my dupes were kind of high. Okay, maybe I need to adjust the way I account for duplication on today's slate. Maybe my sim average score was low. Maybe I need to, do something to have a higher projected score, right? Like those are things that you can see and then figure out what kind of adjustment you need to make for today's slate to, just make better lineups quicker, basically. All right. Next question. I have 2 of 500 lineups with a single game score over 1200. SaberScore is under 100. How should this be interpreted? Yeah, these are like completely different metrics. So, you can't really compare them apples for apples. The values that you see are, they're effectively different formulas, right? So SaberScore, old SaberScore, I should say, is a combination of, or you said single game. I know this isn't a single game slate, but we can at least talk about single game. So single game SaberScore is a combination of sim optimals times 100. This is why the number is so big in showdowns, because we're taking your sim optimals and we're multiplying it by 100 plus some projection, effectively minus ownership is like the simplest way to think about this. When your sim optimals are high, which happens on a showdown, this SaberScore is going to be really high. New SaberScore, what this is, it's effectively an ROI number. Now, ROIs from the sim that gets run that generates these SaberScores are generally not as high as the old SaberScore formula. So when you see one number big, when you see the other one small, it is okay. Just understand what the highest number is for each range. And if your SaberScore is lower, that doesn't mean it's worse. So don't be afraid in that situation. All right. A lot of good questions today. I think we are all caught up here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.